everybody. Always happy. Okay, welcome everybody. The usual preamble, if I can. So this scrutiny committee is being conducted on a hybrid basis in accordance with the Local Government and Elections Wales Act 2021, which will operate alongside the Council's standing orders. Council's standing orders and code of conduct will apply at all times during this virtual meeting in the same way as ordinary meetings, and members shall conduct themselves accordingly. I remind members the meeting is being live streamed to the public. Please can I ask those attending, keep the cameras on, but mute your microphones when you are not speaking to ensure there is no unnecessary background noise. Can I also remind members to ensure the chat function is switched on and to use that facility to indicate to me when they wish to speak on a particular item. Please do not speak until I invite you to do so, and remember to unmute your microphone. A recorded version of this meeting will be uploaded for public viewing as soon as possible after the meeting, whilst translation of the proceedings can be provided upon request. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the council. Thank you. Welcome everybody. Agenda item 1 is apologies for absence. We've got a few if we can help you.
Thank you very much. We've got apologies from Councillor Thomas, Councillor Alex Penn, Councillor Moffat and Councillor Mac.
Okay, thank you very much. Any declarations of interest from anyone? No, none. Okay, straight into service area end of year reviews in 24-25. Welcome to Law and Standards first, and the various departments. I don't think the cabinet member is here for this area, so I think it's Councillor Clark, isn't it?
No, it's Councillor Stone Corton and Councillor.
Right. Either here. So I don't know if Reece wants to say anything or just hand over to officers.
Afternoon, Chair. Afternoon, Committee. Apologise for not being there today. I'm slightly under the weather. I don't want to pass on any of my germs to anybody in the room today. You've got the 3 corporate service areas there today, Chair. Starting off with Mike, I think generally strong performance across the piece, but as usual, I'll hand over to Mike and the team, and I'm here then to add any support and answer any other questions you may have.
Yeah, thanks, Reece. Much appreciated. Over to you then, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I'm joined by Ymddiheuriadau, my Legal Services Manager, Leanne Rowlands, Democratic Services and Elections Manager and Head of Democratic Services, and Jane Clark, Registration and Coroner Services Manager. Hopefully the committee have all had a chance to have a look at the end of year review. I don't propose to say too much about it. You'll see from what we've been working on this year, there are 3 main themes: the efficiency and cost effectiveness, enhancing governance and modernising service delivery. Those are the sort of central pillars, if you like, that underpin the targets and objectives that are set out in the service plan, which are reported on in this. And as you go through the report, you can see that we've completed a number of actions. A large number of other actions are green. There are a few ambers in there, which I'm quite happy to take questions about. There are reasons for all of those. But if you look at some notable successes, getting much nearer to performing within budget now. There is still a bit of an overspend, but we're currently without agency staff for the first time in the 2 and a bit years that I've been here. We've made some notable improvements on governance. So, for example, we're capturing details when we're signing contracts and so on behalf of the council to make sure that they've gone through the proper decision-making channels. And we've had a very hard push on looking at artificial intelligence technology to improve ways of working, looking at doing things more efficiently. The most obvious example for members would be in relation to producing meeting minutes. We're using AI to draft those now before they're checked by officers. So it's all about streamlining, making sure we're working in a modern, agile fashion, and making the best use of the resources that we've got. There is a risk identified in the report, budgetary pressures on service demands. I mean, to be honest with you, Chair, I think every service would report that in the current climate. I'll be guided by you, Chair, on what you'd like me to go through. I mean, I can go through the ambers and the reds at this stage, or I can simply take questions from
Yeah,
the
I'm
committee.
happy to sort of pass it on and take questions. Mike, if that's
I
okay.
don't think I need to say much more in that case.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, great. Okay, open to the floor for members to ask any questions. Comes to the screen.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, one thing I just picked up on the demographics, workforce demographics, looking at turnover rates, they seem quite high compared to NCC, turnover rate, 14.3% compared to 10.9%. I'm just wondering what is that unusual, or is that understandable, or what?
I did consider this before I came into the meeting. Actually, I mean, I would disagree. I don't think that is a high turnover rate. I think you have to remember that a bit of a turnover rate, a bit of a churn in staff is healthy to make sure that you've got new ideas, new thinking coming into the system. You don't necessarily want a low turnover rate, because that can lead to stagnancy. So I think that's a healthy turnover rate. And I would also say, I think it's 3% above the NCC corporate average turnover rate. So I wouldn't say that it's massively higher. What I don't know is what's behind those statistics. So what the reasons are for that churn. Why staff are leaving and new ones are starting. But if anything counts on the screen, I think a turnover rate slightly higher than that would be healthy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I understand that. Absolutely. I just looking at other service areas. This one is much higher than, or not much higher, but is higher than other service areas. So, I understand your rationale, for saying that. That's true.
I think. Sorry, Chair. I think if the committee wanted us to investigate the reasons for that, then we could do that and report back at the next meeting. But my advice would be, I don't see any particular problem there.
No, if it's not a concern, then fine. That's not a problem. Yeah, just something I picked up. Okay, thank you, Chair.
It's a fair point, and perhaps something we can pick up with Tracy, because it's a people thing rather than is there a sort of, does the council have a target around that number or not? Perhaps we could pick it up maybe in the next one and see whether it's something that, I take your point, really. You don't want to really know when it is above average, but that might be a good thing, not a bad thing. So if you want to come in now, please do, rather than wait. It's up to you.
Yeah, I just wondered, Chair, if it's worth reminding committee members that we've got a whole session on recruitment and retention in a couple of months' time, so we can pick up that sort of thing there.
Yes.
When is turnover good or bad, and it's bad at both ends.
Yeah. No, that's helpful. So that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see me because I'm queued on my screen. Can you see me on the screen?
Yes, I did see your hand up. I was coming to you next, Councillor. Okay. Yeah, go on.
I've kind of got to disagree with what the officers are saying. If we've got a high turnover of staff, that could also indicate that there's a problem within the department. So we definitely need to see some reasons why. And if people, as people are leaving, I'm sure they're doing exit interviews, which would be giving us the information as to why people are leaving and not staying. So for me, it is a cause for concern, and it definitely needs to be reviewed.
Yeah, I take your point. It's something that we can debate as part of the recruitment and retention review. So that's come into scrutiny
in a few. So it'd be nice. It would be nice to see. It'd be nice to see something on as to why the departure rate is so high within this department. Because, like I said, if you're doing exit interviews, then obviously there's going to be some data already there and available.
I mean, you're going to hear from the head of people policy and transformation later. I think you need to define high. I mean, I would define high as 40, 50, 60%, not 14. And actually, you know, as I say, my view on that, you know, managing, you know, for example, solicitors who naturally change their job every few years anyway, for example, and other professions, it's perfectly normal for people to change their job every so often to, you know, for a variety of reasons, to gain more experience, to advance their careers. You know, it's not necessarily any unhealthy reason behind that. So, like I say, I'm absolutely happy to look into the rationale for it, but I think I would be careful about defining 14.31% as a high turnover rate.
Yeah, I think. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, Rhys, do you want to come in on the same point?
Yeah, if I can, Chair. I think it's an interesting one, isn't it? And we probably can dive into this a bit deeper when we do the recruitment and retention session. I think probably a couple of things. Mike's just picked up on one of those. Service areas with professional services, professionally qualified staff in them, we tend to see a bit of a higher turnover rate in those anyway, and Mike was alluding to that. I think the other thing I would say as well, I think I'm right in saying this, is Mike's service area has got the fewest staff in the organisation. So yeah. Actually, you know, you've got to have a couple of people leave, and it looks like it's a really big percentage. So Mike has this issue with quite a range of his HR figures. So I think we need to look at that. But you're absolutely right. As a committee, we need to understand what that 14% is and why it is. But that would go the same as every other service area with a turnover rate.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it would be useful when we do the sort of recruitment and retention review to sort of have a breakdown of department reasons altogether, and so maybe that's something we can sort of include in the review, Tracy. That's okay. Yeah, that okay. That okay, Councillor Horton? Yeah, okay. Any other committee members, Councillor Bright?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, first of all, I think it's a great report. This is a good news story, and previously we discussed it. Now it was a positive thing, and obviously we're going to pick on the reds, and so maybe just give more detail on what happened in the Democratic Service Committee and this Brown Johnson model. Where we're going to go on from that. So,
it's probably worth me explaining the background to this for the benefit, because there's going to be general public watching this meeting as well. The council has this required by law under the Local Government Act 2000 to have a constitution which contains its standing orders, its code of conduct, and a range of other things. And there's a duty on the council to keep that document up to date. The situation that had arisen was that document had been added to, change, gradually become more and more out of date, and that position was common to a number of local authorities across Wales. So the Welsh Local Government Association commissioned Brown Jacobson solicitors to produce a draft model constitution for Wales, so specifically for adoption by Welsh authorities, that they could look at adopting. That was something that hadn't particularly been progressed when I first came here. I've been exploring ways of implementing that. It now seems that the organisation wishes to reconsider what model of constitution it would like to implement, and the Democratic Services Committee has expressed some reservations about the direction of travel. So it's going to go back for review. It's worth saying this is a long piece of work, but if you can imagine the council constitution, and to review it and implement a new one, you've got to go through it section by section. You've got to consult on each section. You've got to consult members. You've got to consult senior officers. You've potentially got to consult other stakeholders in some cases, such as the general public. And that's the reason for the length of the expected completion date. But it's read simply for the fact that it's not really off the ground yet, and we're a few years into considering it. I hope to sit here this time in 12 months and have that chart a different colour.
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Happy? Any other questions from any of the members? It sounds as a no. Could I just run through a couple of that? I won't overly dwell on the point because it was made at the last council meeting, but obviously the performance around it getting the minutes out in time is way sort of below target. And you know, given that you've introduced AI that you were looking to at the start to help improve that, you'd expect it to be getting better and not worse. So I don't know if there's anything you could add to that.
Yeah, of course. So it is an improving picture. I mean, the first thing to say is this is a new statistic. I think we've been collecting this for 3 quarters now. The other thing to say is that the statistic for the final quarter of last year was 71.04%. So if you take that against an average of 56.9, that, if you sort of crunch the numbers on it, that shows an upward trajectory. So there is an improving picture. We're not there yet. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that, but obviously with that curve going up, we are settling into a new way of working on that, and I fully anticipate that not being an issue again this time next year. Do you want to add anything on that, Ian?
No, just we did implement a new way of doing the minutes, I think, quarter 3 last year. We tracked it a little bit before that. The changes we produced, and yeah, we certainly see a massive increase in performance, and I don't see that anything.
Okay, thank you. Right, I just wanted to pick up then on page 12, the left-hand page 12, the development mechanisms for seeking feedback from general public service users on the coroner's and registrar's service. When you read the narrative, it kind of looks like it's complete, but it's marked as amber, so I guess you're saying it's not complete.
It's complete for the coroner. So how we've gone about that is we've set up a new website for the coroner's service. That's live. I think the link to it might be in that document somewhere. I'd recommend everyone having a look at it. I think it looks great. And we've also rolled out comment cards in the coroner's court. So it's really easy for service users to give their feedback on that service. They can go online, put their comments in a box on the website. They can fill out a card at Livingstone House where the coroner's court is, but equally it's not overly intrusive given the nature of the service that we're providing there. The reason it's amber is that we're proposing to do the same in the registrar's service, but that requires the registrar's service to have a new website, which has not been brought forward for redevelopment yet. So as and when that's been done, we will propose to do the same. Have a contact form box on the registrar's registry office website, so that the same thing can be done. So it's simply a matter of waiting for us to get to that point in the programme, but there is a plan for it.
So should that be a red then?
I think to make it in red would be a bit unfair given the progress that we've made. You know, we've completed it as regards the coroner's court, and there are feedback mechanisms in place in the registry office. So I think to mark it as red would imply that there are no means for giving feedback, and I don't think that would be a fair reflection on the work that's been done, or what opportunities that customers do have to give feedback. Red to me would be, well, there's not really anything in there that people can use to feedback, and I don't honestly think that that's the case.
Yeah, and there is, or it appears from the sort of narrative to be a mechanism for feedback in both areas, both the coroner's and the registrar. It's just that the kind of website perhaps hasn't made the progress. So yeah. Will you just carry that as a new action then by itself, more or less, I guess, for next year, is it?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the action wants rewording off the back of this, and it will be continue to progress the development of the registrar's website to ensure the availability of opportunities for customer feedback. Yeah.
Okay. The members training program is amber as well, but again it sort of feels like you've done it by the wording. So it says it's been devised, consultation has been carried out, report set.
The last bit on that is the report to bring back. We're looking to support members to That's the definitions on the priority trainings, whether it's essential, useful, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we have gone through our set till the end of the year. That's already in the diaries. We've done the consultation. It's just that final report.
So I take it to the same point as to why it's not red then, because you've made sort of significant progress and the red would look like the other way then.
Well, yeah, actually on reflection, you scratch your head up about some of these and what colour to put them. I actually think on reflection that should possibly be green.
Well, that was my take on it. I thought it should have been green. Yes.
Yeah, feedback noted. Yeah.
That was it from me, I think, on the service area. Any other questions from anybody else? Councillor Cleverly?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It was just a comment really on the websites. I did put my hand up, you didn't see it.
Sorry.
When we were on it. Not all residents are computer literates and they don't use the computer at all. I know my elderly neighbours and some of my residents, I've had to go and help them on the computer and do it for them, because they're not computer literate at all, and you know we shouldn't expect them to be. They haven't even got a phone, a proper phone to use with the computer with the internet on. You know, just to comment basically on that.
Is that sort of specific to the coroner's website that we were mentioning?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
We provide comment cards, don't we?
Because there are lots of old people, if they've lost a loved one or whatever, you know, they haven't got access to computers and things like that.
We provide comment cards, Councillor Cleverly, as well in the coroner's court. So service users who prefer to use those can fill them out on site and leave it with us, and we would address the feedback in exactly the same way.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Linton.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Speaking on the coroner's office and the report, I was actually there this morning. I was quite surprised when I called in that there was no reception desk. And when I first went there, you go in the front doors and all you've got is like a press button where you can ask for a reception or somebody to speak to. There is no desk. It was a bit confusing at first when you first go there, because you've got nobody to talk to except pressing a button. And it was only luckily another lady who works there come out and said, "Is there anything I can do for you to help?"
Do you want to take that one, Jane? Because I understand that when there are, for example, hearings going on, we set the building up slightly differently to when it's simply that officers are going in there to work.
That's right. The building is open if there is an inquest hearing, and the door would be open then, and there would be staff downstairs to greet you at all of the times. It's by appointment only, or pressing the buzzer on arrival and letting somebody know that you're there. So you're right, there's no reception desk that's manned all the time.
Right. Okay. I don't know whether if that's preferable, or I don't know. I don't know what the turnover is of people just randomly turning up seeking questions or anything. I wouldn't know. So
That's not common. Not common for someone to just turn up unexpectedly.
okay, thank you.
By appointment, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from any of the committee on anything in our standards? Okay, thank you very much. Right, thank you, Chair. No problem.
The only things I picked up from that was your comments about the actions and progress of the registrar's office. Fine.
Yes, the website, yeah. So, yeah, just to carry forward the action around the development of the registrar's website next year. That's probably the recommendation. The
And also
Other one was amending the college
to the green for members training programme. The comment about the recruitment and retention, although we to mention during the service area, would you like me to include that in the next one?
I think if we just note in the minutes, committee sought some clarification around the turnover in the service area, but given there's a wider recruitment and retention review in the forward work programme, we've asked the head of people policy and transformation to include the data for all departments for that. Is that fair? Yeah. Happy?
Yeah, I think the committee will get more value out of considering it as a wider
Yeah,
exercise.
absolutely. Yeah. And I was going to make the same point that we stick in terms of numbers, because I knew you had a small service area, so the percentages look completely different. And you could have one person go, and that might be sort of 8% or whatever if you've got a small number. So you need to kind of take the percentage in context effectively. So once you see that across the council, you'll kind of get a difference. And previously,
Okay, could we just, sorry, Jake, could we just add to that how the recruitment is looking and to align with the sort of the leave-in as well, please? So if we're losing 13%, then obviously we need to be recruited in line. So just if that could be included in the report that's going to be generated for the meeting in a couple of months.
yes, yeah, by all means.
Thank you.
That's part of what we intended to do anyway, wasn't it? So that's the intention. Yeah. Fantastic. Any other recommendations from the committee? I mean, I don't know if there was a recommendation from Councillor Linton in terms of your questions for the sort of coroner's court or not. I think you were saying it's probably not required to have a sort of permanent presence there. So
It's just a question.
yeah, okay. So, thank you very much. Thanks all. See you soon. We've just welcomed Councillor Pym with us as well as we were going through towards the end. So we'll just amend his apologies to start.
Thank you, Chair.
No problem. Thanks, Councillor.
Okay, that's fine. Councillor Howells is just on her way, so she's in the middle, because obviously we said half past. So
Yeah.
I'll introduce everyone in a minute. I think it's only two, so there is coming up.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, thanks everyone. Welcome to the second service area. We've got a few cabinet members here. We've got apologies from the leader, which we noted at the start. I think Councillor Howells is on her way. Tracy's fortunate or unfortunate to have 5 cabinet members.
Fortunate,
absolutely. So welcome everybody. I mean, hopefully you all don't want to say something. Hopefully you've sort of synced up first and sort of whether one of you wants to say something or what, that will probably be expedient, or whether you just want to.
You want me to give a round up and then see if any? Yeah.
I would be happy with that approach. And then, you know, if anybody else wants to pitch in as we go, then I'll be welcome.
Thanks, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because as you've said, and I'll start with that, it's a very varied service area. There's a lot going on, quite a varied portfolio. So we have 5 cabinet members, including the leader. So we've got Deb Davis and Kexon Court online. We've got Jason Hughes in the room, who's a new cabinet member to us this year. That's important because he's not really accountable for last year's performance, but we're going to have him.
I'm not going to let him off.
And we're expecting Councillor Howells in a second. So yeah, it's a really varied service area. We also do lots of reports to lots of other scrutiny committees. So we have a number of partnership pieces that we report to the partnership scrutiny. We report to governance and audit very frequently on things like complaints and performance and risk. And we're coming back to this scrutiny twice this year, once on communications, once on recruitment and retention. We also have, I remember it's 9 or 10 different corporate annual reports, which all go to overview and management, things like strategic qualities, digital information risk, and so on. So a lot of kind of compliance stuff within that. Obviously, I won't try and go through all of the reports, it's quite detailed, but I've got several of my managers here. Some key things. Last year we talked about the review of property services, and also, obviously we're now coming to the end of New North in December, and a lot of work around creating a new vehicle, really significant work, as I'm sure you can imagine. A lot of progress on the council's websites and indeed on digital comms and media, which wasn't quite there last year. Some really good work around sickness and the wellness at work policy, and changes with managers there that have started to come through in performance. And we're also really pleased on our engagement in training, particularly successes around Welsh language training and our partnership with colleague Gwent. I'll just flag for the new year, again, significant work we expect continuing with the new property services vehicle, that being so new. A number of big pieces with the regulators, and a whole tranche of work around AI, digital automation, and how efficient we can make ourselves there, which is also picked up in another report I've just posted.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Does any of the cabinet members want to say anything supplementary to that, or should we go in? Councillor Davis?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. Apologies, I think I may well have a similar lurgy or same sort of lurgy as Reese, because I didn't want to trouble you by my being there in person. My roles and responsibilities working with Tracy is actually very much with HR, and it's a real positive note. The vast majority of the targets have been met. What I really like to do is thank the team for their hard work. They've worked incredibly, they work consistently well together, and I think consequently there's some really superb outcomes for all of our staff who work for Newport City Councils. The positives to note are the continuing improving sickness absence records, and support this has been the recent revision to the wellness and work policy that's supporting our staff back into work, and clarification in regards to sickness leave. And a really good example of that is those who need to attend IVF appointments are now allowed that leave, and I think that's a real positive, because that recognises the increasing need for women to attend IVF treatment and ongoing support in today's society. It's important to note that we've also introduced a new drug and alcohol testing policy, and it's a supportive approach that's also been welcomed very much so by our unions. The team have worked hard to improve provision and support in regards to health and safety, assessments and review of policy application, and fulfilling our statutory duties has been an absolute priority. A huge amount of work has gone into this, especially within our schools, and the officers involved have taken this on with not just a sense of enthusiasm but determination to improve the service, and thanks needs to be especially noted. Finally, mandatory training opportunities have undergone a transformation and upgrade. We're now utilising AI, so it makes training far more interesting, accessible, but importantly, as training changes, it means we can easily adapt, because it's essentially they're not cartoon, but they look very human in their sort of design and outlook, but it's very easy to change those individuals and what they're saying and how their approach to training. So I think that's a real positive as well, and they're just a few of the real positive things that have been happening within HR this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Councillor Corton?
Hi there. I just would like to echo a little bit of what Councillor Davis said, really, and to thank the comms team for their amazing work over the last year. I know, and Tracy is probably still suffering the PTSD of me turning up like a bat out of hell and, you know, flying in, but what that team have achieved this year is just absolutely phenomenal, and I'm so proud that we're reaching more residents and engaging with more residents than ever before, really. So I just wanted to put that on record before we start.
Thanks, Councillor. Anybody else? Any other cabinet members? Or Councillor Hughes? Yeah.
Thank you. Just to say to the staff involved in the Welsh language elements of this, as well, just a huge thanks to them. It was actually held the Welsh Champion Post about 4 or 5 years ago, so I've been able to see how that work has progressed through the last 4 or 5 years, especially in relation to the training up of our own staff and but also just a nod to the significant work that's going on in relation to attracting the study to as well, the work that's going on behind the scenes to make sure that's a success. So there's been lots of really strong positive work in it. Thanks to the staff that they're doing. Okay.
Yeah, I'll finish off. Yeah, just wanted to add my thanks on the asset side, because I know the assets team put in an awful lot of work this year as well. You know, we're really proud of the GIS, which I think we're going to talk about in the course of the meeting, which is now going to be available to members, which is something we had talked about, I think, last year, and that's something we've now delivered on. But we'll come back to that. The revamp of Newport North, you know, creating the new LATCO and so on. An awful lot of work has gone on behind the scenes on that, as has a lot of work gone on as regards the optimization strategy under the strategic asset management plan. It's not just rationalization, it's optimization, and there are a lot of considerations that have to go into that and how we use our assets, and I see all the work day in day out that goes into that. And I think last of all, the community asset transfers, which I know also Councillor Hughes is going to be quite involved with. We've really progressed the first sort of trial one in a sense, the pilot, which was Tockage. You know, that's really moved quite far down the line, and hopefully that will be a good template for future cats. So I think there's a lot that we can be really happy with reflecting on an assets perspective this year. Thank you.
Okay, over to the committee. Any questions? Councillor Bright?
Thank you, Chair. Well, in our pre-meeting, completely agree. You know, this is a great report. It's a good news story. Congratulations all around it. You know, lots of good stuff going on here. Just a couple of things. Obviously, we're going to zoom in on the reds. So first of all, could you explain a bit more about the apprenticeship? Why is the uptake down? Yeah, why aren't we more internal apprenticeships in the college? And secondly, just about, I think I've noticed the comms has improved significantly. Maybe in the past, you know, on social media, some people put on a social site and then council to reply. I think our reply is better. We've been more proactive in our reply to the constituents, to residents, and promoting the good work we're doing rather than just accepting those comments. I think so. Again, that should be noted that we're doing, you know, because we are a great city, we're our destination city, and you know, the comms is promoting that. But then we are doing more to say, you know, we're not just accepting those comments. We are fighting back positive news stories, which I think should be commended, really. And thank you, Chair.
Thanks. And that is a difficult stance to take with comms, so I appreciate that. And yeah, we'll pick that a little bit more when we come back to that session. Thanks. Okay, can I ask you to back? Thanks.
Yeah, so apprenticeships come into two sort of measures, I suppose, in that red area there. So we've got apprenticeships that we bring in new employees into the organisation, and we support them through their qualification for a year or 2 or 3, depending on the level of qualification you undertake. And when we had significant SBF funding last year to support 20 apprenticeships into the organisation, we wouldn't have had those 20 people if we didn't have SBF, or possibly wouldn't have had it, or definitely a lot of it. So we hadn't had that traction in previous years, so that was a significant change for us in terms of being able to bring 20 new people into the organisation to undertake those apprenticeships. A number of those have since gone to employment within the council, and 1 or 2 have found employment elsewhere. And this year also we've now got another bank of SBF funding apprenticeships, not 2011, and possibly Europe in a different service area. So that's one area, so we've significantly improved there. The other bit of the measure is the current employees that are taking apprenticeships as part of the roles, and that's the bit that has slowed down. There's less appetite, less opportunity, whatever that looks like, for you to pick up some work in this area and start it. But people from in the organisation have picked up qualifications in the part in the last 12 months. So we're trying to pull it together as part of the people plan and recruitment retention strategy, and we can increase that this year. Whether that's down to people not having capacity to undertake these things, who knows, we need to get to that and start to delve into wider areas. So really positive from kind of bringing the external, often young people, it doesn't have to be young people, often young people. Gone down a bit in terms of together.
Maybe so. Are we being too harsh? Should that be orange rather than red? Then?
Yeah, it's going to significant activity to bring the 20, not just the funding for the SPF 20, but lots of activity happen around to make that happen across the organisation. So
the different measures, I think, though, aren't they? They ought to be either separate or because and the one would probably be green then, and perhaps the other one would be red, maybe. So that's more about CPD then. That's measuring existing employees that then decide to do professional development to apprenticeship. Okay.
Yeah. So
it doesn't read like that. I don't think you took it like that beforehand, did you? So I think it suggests sort of new people coming in.
So it started out as a national measure. I don't think it is a national measure anymore. We just kept that national how it was created. But yeah.
Yeah, a couple of things springs to mind there. One is we can definitely look at the wording for that for next year's plan to make sure that's clear there, I think. Secondly, even though we are really, really pleased with the SPF success, we have to remind ourselves that that's not a permanent solution. So we still see that as amber times amber, if you know what I mean. Even though we did well in this 1 year, and that was brilliant. And the third thing is this also might be useful to revisit when we come in February, I think it is, on R&R, because getting people in at that entry level, we're interested in the council is a really important part of that. Who stayed? What does that look like? What's the outcome of people doing those qualifications? So I think we could perhaps circle back around to that then as well, because we'll know, not that we don't know that now, but we'll know more then, because we'll be 2 years in, we'll be nearly at the end of the year, won't we?
Yeah, and it's because that sort of continued professional development isn't always in apprenticeships either. So somebody might go off and not do an apprenticeship, but a qualification in HR, for example, might go off and do their CIPD or whatever it is. That's also so the measure around CPD is different, isn't it? Because I thought this was just recruiting number of apprentices, but it's not. It's a bit more than that. So maybe we could kind of look at the measure in terms of what other training we support as well. Appreciate you pointing around just a national measure that it started from, but there are probably some good news stories there in terms of other employees that we're supporting to do whatever.
Absolutely, we have a
professional
program
qualifications.
and so on and so
Yeah,
on.
so maybe we could have a look at that and think about what measures are going forward.
Yeah, we'll look at that.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, sorry, Councillor Pym was first, and then I've got Councillor Screen and Linton.
Hi Chair, sorry, my camera function is broken on my laptop at the moment, so I'm not able to get my face on the screen. I just wanted to raise with the committee the concerns and disappointment with the asset transformation. I know that Easewell Community Centre was highlighted as a good example of the asset transfer from Newport City Council over to a charity. I sit on the committee at Easewell TOCH, and it's been a really frustrating and slow process. There's been a number of hold-ups and delays, and it's put a lot of pressure on the committee, especially at TOCH, who have got deadlines to meet with funding, and it's caused quite a bit of confusion and also quite a bit of disappointment that we're still not over the line with it. So I think if we are going to use it as a case study, I think we need to learn how we can speed the process up, because for community groups and charities, who are putting themselves forward to take on this responsibility, then the process needs to be as straightforward as possible. And I know from being involved in a number of meetings at TOC-HE as well, the delays have been have made life quite difficult in terms of planning ahead when we finally take on the asset. Thank you.
So yeah, obviously we take that feedback on board. We have said all along that the TOC-H example would be something we need to learn from. It came to us rather than it being part of the plan, so the opportunity came to us probably a bit ahead of our plans, and we've said that we'll learn from that, so I hope that we will. We don't have templates and documents and arrangements set up as such. We don't have lots of these to work with. We have engaged with other organisations like GAVO, who actually their advice was it is really complicated and you know there isn't an easy way forward with this. However, we'll continue to work with them. We've also brought in an external provider, whose name escapes me now, but they specialise in CAT transfers, and they have provided training to officers across the authority and to Norse colleagues on what is needed, and we'll also work with legal, Mike's team, on what do the legals look like in future. So we already are learning from that, and we hope to learn more. That said, it'll be a really positive outcome when we get it across the line.
Can I just add to that?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I think when I sort of referred to it being a pilot, it was exactly as Tracy said, you know, now we've done it once, we're sort of accruing the knowledge, and that's going to enable us to streamline the process going forward. So it was that accumulation of knowledge that I think we're quite happy with now, in the sense that, you know, this is a pilot, and going forward, we'll be able to do it better and better as time goes on.
Okay, what does resource look like for that? And it sounds like it's probably a lot of work from what you were saying. And have you had new resource to do it? It's being lumped in on somebody else's sort of role, I guess.
Yeah, that is a good question. So no, there aren't additional resources for it, and so there's two things, isn't there? There's both capacity, the number of people, and also capability. We're all very capable, but it's not our expert area. So the learning. So both of those things are important. The link up with GAVO was part of that. Is there extra capacity that we could tap into in the wider community? Some of the issues raised by other organisations is how they are supported. We can't. We have to be on the other side of the transaction, so that is quite complex. Yeah. So we look into the third sector about how they can provide support, and a small amount of funding was put against some training and extra capacity. If we're going to do that in any numbers, then that is a resource challenge. You know, I can't show you.
Yeah, and that was my next question, really. Given that this is the direction of travel in the sort of asset strategy, then, you know, we probably need to think about how we're going to resource it going forward. If we anticipate that, you know, this is a pilot, but if we're going to be doing more, then we need to understand what we collectively need to think about what the resource looks like to deliver that. Because what you don't want to do is make promises to the community that we then, you know, fail to deliver on and get sort of feedback like Councillor Pym on a more sort of common thing once we've got this under our bag. So yeah, perhaps that's something we could make a recommendation on if the committee are happy going forward with, you know, the resources to be thought through carefully. So, any other questions from the committee? Sorry, Councillor Screen, you were next, will you?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just picked up something on the workforce demographics. It may be something or nothing really, but looking at sickness days lost, I mean, it's pleasing to see that the service area is lower than NCC overall. You know, that's a good thing to see. But both have a sort of upward movement. You know, they're moving upwards, particularly by Q4. And I don't know whether that's, you know, something of concern or not, because I don't know what you can measure that against. You know, if you measure against NCC, yes, it's a less of an upward movement. But there's an upward movement anyway, and I'm just wondering, is there any cause for concern or reason, you know, for that?
Yeah, I looking at the data on page 56, I think it's a cumulative upgrade. So, you know, we get 1.42 the 1 month and perhaps 1.42 the next month. So it's increasing in line. There's no significant increases there. It's just cumulative each quarter throughout the year, up to 6.92, as you say, which is almost half of the, just over half of the NCC overall sickness absence. So we are well below as a service area, and that is a cumulative quarterly effect.
Okay, thanks, Chair. I understand that, you know, perfectly well. And so there's no cause for concern really on that sort of thing. Fine. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Can I just add, and also at the end, sickness is quite hard to benchmark because organisations share it kind of voluntarily. So yeah. But we do, and we do know that we've done slightly better than other local authorities, and certainly better than ourselves last year. So yeah, so far so good this year.
You'd expect the people department to be better than average, though, wouldn't you?
That's what I always say.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor. No, thanks, Councillor Screen. Councillor Linton.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you all for a very concise report. It's very pleasing to see the Greens. It's just one item I've noticed on page 13, item 2, regarding the planning. It's got the item as complete, but if you look on part of it, isn't totally complete. Well, you've got the review of corporate plans, supporting services planning discussions. They've commenced, but they're to be commencing on 25-26. And the report is on 31st of March 2027. So I think I should be split.
Sorry, which item are you referring to, Councillor Linton?
Page 13, item 2, review, update and implement the strategic planning framework.
Are you using, which page number is using? The left-hand side one?
On the left-hand side, yes, sorry, the left-hand side. It should be, can't see where the other page. Page 4, what is it? Either.
Page 31.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I've gone the wrong way around. 31.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay, yeah. You're absolutely right. Thank you, Councillor. It is both ongoing, and the way we've recorded that is complete for this year. So everything we expected to do this year has been complete. We've reviewed service plans, we've reviewed the framework, all of that work is done. But actually, in next year's service plan, this action will continue. So we've done everything we needed to do for this year. However, there'll be a repeat of that action for next year. So arguably, yes, it's green.
Okay, that was it. I thank you.
Sorry, when you said 13, I was struggling.
Yeah, I was looking. I'm looking at the.
Sorry,
that was my fault. Yeah.
Any other questions on this service area from any of the councillors? No. Okay. Just in terms of the Norse changes,
yeah.
I thought I read somewhere that deadline was moving from January to March. Am I wrong with that?
There was a contingency provision,
right,
for want of a better term, within the cabinet report, but we are holding to the 31st of December, and we expect to be operational on the 1st of January. But we do have a contingency permission, for want of a better term, just in case.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of the review of property services, sorry, the asset register, Councillor Howell talked about.
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Yeah. So
do you want to give an update on that?
Thank you. Yeah, yes, I should have said that in my introduction. So in previous years, committee has said, why can't councillors access a list of the council's assets? And I think we've always said, well, it changes and it's complicated, and how do we keep the list up to date? So Sean's team have worked on a GIS access with a NCC assets overlay, if that's not too complex for everyone. We're just going through testing of that. We've got the instructions, we've got those notes to be sent out. I hope that'll go out to all councillors next week. So all councillors will be able to see in kind of a private NCC area if a building is owned by the council or not, if land is owned by the council or not, which is what's been asked for a few times, and I'm sorry it's taken so long to get to that. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Because I've seen a sort of preliminary version of it before it gets rolled out to everyone, obviously, and I just think it's going to be really useful. You know, it's it's a good user-friendly way of members just being able to check things for ward residents without necessarily having to come to officers, wait for an officer response. You know, it's something that will really speed up quite a lot of queries that we field on a day-to-day basis, and it's just quite useful for informing ourselves as well. You know, what does the council own? What is it used for? There's a lot of that information in there, so we'll be able to really think about our communities and what the council's got that could help them in that. So I think it's going to be a really useful tool to have going forward.
Does it only tell you what the council own, or does it tell you, well, so say I click on a different parcel, would it tell me the owner of that bit of parcel land if it wasn't the council? No.
I'd love that. No,
because University Homes have got access to some of this.
We have looked at some of the other pieces. Newport City Homes is a common ask, and there are some other things too. When we didn't want to overload getting it out today, and determining if that works or not. But keeping it up to date is more difficult when it isn't our data. But we wouldn't rule that out for the future.
If this works really well, it might be something as a development we could do later, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because that would be even more useful. If somebody rings you up and says there's dumping all over that land, and you can actually find out who it belongs to straight away. It would be great, because sometimes it's scrambling between Welsh Government and Newport Council, Newport City Homes or whatever. So yeah, that would be fantastic.
You would have to have that real-time link up with land registry, I suppose, which makes it a bit more complex. But I think officers are quite open to sort of ideas and comments once it is rolled out, and you know, they'll be
it's available in the marketplace. What the cost is, I have absolutely no idea. I've seen the system work, so as I've met when you put it in homes development managers, they scrolled over a parcel and said so and so owns that. So it's there, but it might be astronomical cost. No idea.
In another sort of wrong term, but in the past it has been more difficult with the LAPCO and the council systems not wholly talking. Now we won't. We'll still be two organisations, but we will be running the IT both. So I'm hoping that will also be a little bit easier in the future. Also,
you know, another point is unregistered land isn't going to be on it. And obviously we do own a lot of unregistered land, but that is very difficult to get on. So that's another thing that might be for a future project. But you know, it's just a really good first step.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome it. It's something that Councillor Thomas had sort of asked, and not Councillor Rees were last year's sort of committee members, so I'm sure they'll be delighted to see that. So Councillor Pym, did you want to come in on another question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It was just, it may not be the right scrutiny to raise this, but first of all, I wanted to thank those involved with the comms for the city. I think there's been a significant improvement over the past year in the way that NCC is communicating with the residents of Newport, especially online. A lot more information is available, and the city's been promoted in a much more positive way, which is nice to see. I still think there are some improvements that could be made. Again, it may not be for this scrutiny committee, but I was just having another look on the Newport City Council website regarding the green spaces and parks of Newport, and nothing has been updated since I last raised this issue about what's going on in your local parks. The history of Bellevue Park and Beechwood Park is still 2 paragraphs about the history of the green spaces, and there doesn't seem to be any relevant updated information on what's going on in our public parks. I just was wondering if I could raise this again and see if we can see some significant improvement for next summer. I know that there's a What's On a page that's dedicated to events, but I think a little bit more information about our public parks would be very helpful for those who are either visiting the city or those who are wondering what's going on before it's too late.
Happy to take that one if you like, Chair.
Yeah, please do.
Thanks for that, Councillor Pym. We'll take that on board. I think for awareness for everyone here, the comms team is actually a very, very small team, and obviously the work on updating the website and bringing the whole thing up to speed is ongoing. As you mentioned, Councillor Pym, the What's On section, the What's On site is probably the best vehicle for that, and we've seen huge footfall and huge traffic on that site since it's been established. But we'll discuss that at our next comms briefing. But at the moment, I'm not going to promise you that we'll achieve that imminently, due to the priority work required in getting the rest of the website up to date and the ongoing work in reaching residents. But we will keep it on the list.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a comms review sort of coming to committee. I don't think that's kind of included in the remit at the moment, so it might be something that we can sort of think. But I was going to sort of make a comment on the website as well, because I wasn't sure who said at the start that we've made sort of really good progress on the website. I'm not sure if that was you, Tracy, or one of the cabinet members. So I won't say who it was because I can't remember, but somebody did. But from the outside world looking in, and as a user of the website, it seems like we've made very little progress on the website. And I don't know if that's because it's so big that actually you only see the certain bits that you see, and it sort of goes off in lots of different sort of service areas. But for at least 2 years now of my sort of tenure, I think possibly longer, we've had that message at the top saying this website's under development. The search function is dreadful. We can't find anything on there. Some bits have improved and others haven't. I just wondered if we appear like we were going to complete it. I think in Q3, I think, of this year. But where are we at with that, and are we on target for it? At least, are you happy with the sort of progress that we're making?
Thanks, Chair. I think that's fair. I mean, we have interesting feedback on the website. There's a whole set of people who think it's changed beyond recognition, and a whole set who don't think it's changed at all, which is probably to do with habits. So the things you look at perhaps haven't changed, right? There's a little bit of that. And there is some elements that are out of scope. So the customer services at the on.gov, is it, where all the council stuff is. So they're out of scope. In terms of the timeline, we were lucky enough to get SPF funding, so we added to the programme all of the microsites. So the microsites were done, but that has now extended the end of the programme and meant that not everything has been migrated across. I haven't got the stats with you, I'm afraid, but we'll come back in September on that. There's a very significant amount of rationalisation, really positive, real person. Not a real person, but users of the website, feedback on the areas that we've done. The accessibility is now at the top level of accessibility, where we were getting complaints from regulatory bodies about accessibility. So we have had to prioritise kind of the less accessible bits. It's better from a bilingual and a Welsh language point of view, and the infrastructure is created. We've still got more to do. We've had a particular challenge with the search facility. I won't shy away from that. Because of the old and the new, the search facility struggles. We've quite recently had a technical upgrade on that, so I'd be interested to know by September if that's made a difference, because that's been changed quite recently. I would hope that we'll complete this year, but we did actually push more through the project than it was originally. But there are stats behind that I can either share with the committee, or I can cover that when I come back in September.
Yeah, we can cover it in September if you're happy to, rather than sort of share it separately. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, it's there are so many services and things that you sort of get on there. It's sort of hard to keep track. It's interesting that we've sort of created a separate coroner's website now, and I guess that's the microsite point, perhaps, is it?
Yeah.
So is that a sort of direction of travel then, that we'll have more sort of microsite separate rather than everything on newport.gov, or is it a mixed bag?
Generally speaking, we try not to avoid them. We try to be proportionate in our use of microsites. Of course, Gwent Coroners is not just Newport City Council. So we try and use the microsites for things that are not really part of the everyday council function. So the food festival was one that was discussed, the coroners, which isn't a Newport City Council function as such. We provide it on behalf of Gwent. One Newport, which isn't just the council, is a much wider piece. But if it's a council, wholly council, everyday service, we work really hard to keep it in the main infrastructure. That said, we try and use the same infrastructure for the microsites, as you've probably seen. And, you know, some of the notes on that is open source. It's much more cost effective, much better to run, and so on. We've got a bit of a proliferation of microsites already out there that need to be rationalised, and I would say some should be new microsites. Great feedback on coroners we've had. Some probably shouldn't be microsites at all, and then we bring that back in. Yeah.
Did you want to add anything?
All I was going to say is that the Gwent crematorium, which would say was the coroners in the sense that it's not just an NCC.
Yes, because it's a function we deliver on behalf of. And
I guess just to reiterate Tracy's point about the wider systems, that you see the website of YNC, and that's absolutely fine. As we know, we've got loads of systems in the organisation that kind of feed in that democratic services system, loads of other systems, and the focus is on the website. There are more things that we need to look at the wider piece into our systems. To make the whole better. It's
just a job to look after and maintain it. I mean, I was on a meeting recently, and Mike was on the meeting, and we quoted 2 different parts of the Constitution, and both on the website. I think there were actually 3 versions of them on the website. So it's that probably just becomes really hard to sort of, because you chapter search function in, and that sends you to an old bit. So it's just really hard to maintain. But
like for like, we could have done it by now twice. It's the rationalisation of content and the checking for currency, and do we really want that thing? Making it shorter, smaller. Websites became more sprawling. That isn't recommended good practice now. Like for like, we maybe that's what we should have done, but we're cleaning as
I suspect that a lot of your resources also got into trying to improve some of the sort of mileage area and the customer contact forms and stuff like that. That seems to have worked really well. So we'll probably pick that in the next one. But I would say those are areas that I've had feedback with. Some of the forms are easier to use and sort of more user friendly. So that's a real positive. Okay, any other questions from the committee? Take that as a no. Should we just deal with recommendations then?
Just committee comments, pleased with the report, which give praise to the comms team about how we're promoting the good work that we're doing, which we commended. Comment about the number of apprenticeships and the work for next year to make it clearer. Your comment here about the direction of travel and asset management. We need to look at how we're going to resource going forward and to understand what the resource looks like. A consideration of possible updates with GIS in the future. And then also Councillor Pym's comment, again praising the comms team, suggestion about what's on for green spaces, because there should be more information in there. Apart from those comments, was there any other recommendations the committee would like to make about the report?
No, I think that was it from memory, I think. Okay, fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your time. It's my first day back, so it is right. Okay, yeah. Take it easy. Okay, welcome everybody. We don't think we've got a cabinet member for this service area because we've got a couple of apologies for you. Reece, do you want Marion just to crack on, or do you want to say anything? Yeah, crack on, then over to you, Marion.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So first of all, we've completed on service managers at the moment, it's either bereavement leave or kind of annual leave. So we've got Karen Gregg on the end for services. Kerry would normally be here, Karen's in there, and we got Dom Lewis and Andrew Mundy, who were subbing for Emma on leave, and who's managing Richard on bereavement leave, but hopefully we'll be able to cover off some of this stuff. So with that in mind, just to go through quickly the kind of reports. So last year was successful in many ways, and really challenging as well. We had some real sickness issues, but also not just the level of them, but also the fact that they were concentrated, and that caused a few kind of some real challenges for the organisation. You know, we had a couple of large projects, the new finance system in particular. There's no doubt it's put an incredible amount of strain on a number of sort of teams. The systems admin team in particular. We've not implemented a new financial system for many years. We started it just after the COVID period, and it was done in a very remote way, very different to what the skill sets and experiences of the team are, and that's been really problematic. But it is in, and that's one of the successes last year. But it really wasn't without, and still continues to be quite a challenge for us in some respects. And then our central accountancy team, you know, I've been blathering on about this for years. It's kind of under-resourced. It's a real organisational risk. You know, truth is, balls have been dropped now, and it's a real problem. We have got a new post in there, and that will be advertised soon. It can't come. It will be a good start, but you know, that central team is the core of the finance team, and I think that we've reached the end of the kind of line really, and the balls are dropping faster than they ever have done on a number of important things. But anyway, notwithstanding all those challenges, we did get the new finance system in place. We did bring in an external audit service in. They started officially on the 1st of April. And we did prepare the organisation well for the significant UK-wide procurement changes following the Brexit stuff and etc. And that's been 12-18 months worth of quite intense understanding, training, changing our processes, changing our kind of various documentation, etc. And we kicked off a customer services improvement project as well. That's ongoing, will be the next sort of 14 months or so now. And you know, that is a learning experience, that's for sure. But that's a really important project. So you know, we had some good sort of successes last year. Performance is pretty good. you know, we did miss out on a few of our targets, but actually most of the numbers were very, very manageable. So I think performance has actually held up really, really well. And we've made some progress on most of our objectives as well. So, you know, really, really pleased with that. We've closed off a number of our kind of customer services IT related ones, because I think we need a different set of objectives now to sort of match the customer services project that's going to be happening. So we've kind of said what we have achieved up to the 31st of March, we'll draw a line there, and we'll review our kind of position there. That's it from me, Chair. I think if there are any questions, myself or the team will do our best.
Fantastic. In terms of the customer services review, we've got an update coming, I think, in September. So perhaps it'd be welcome to sort of have a look at the sort of refined objectives then and review progress. So I think that was the 6 monthly points.
Yeah.
Or was it 12 monthly? I can't remember now. 12 monthly. So we've got an update due anyway. So if with the committee's permission, we can sort of pick most of that up then anyway as a sort of review of where we are. Okay. Any questions from the committee? Comes to the screen.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just looking at the challenges outlined, and just 2 points. One is the ongoing increased challenges with sickness absence. I note that it's lower, the rates are lower, though higher than historical levels. I just wonder, is there a particular reason behind that? And secondly, the central accountancy team continue to be under-resourced, although there's a new accountant role coming in. Is that difficulty in recruiting people in the accountancy field, or is that just a resource issue? Okay, thanks, Chair.
Sure. Yeah. So on the sickness absence, in some ways, we were very lucky. There were a number of people that had elective procedures, etc., hospital. We also had stress issues as well. And they were concentrated in 1 or 2 areas, and that obviously exaggerated the kind of impact, really, significantly. So in some ways, it was really an unlucky set of circumstances around you know, individual staff having to proceed with hospital appointments, etc., and procedures. The stress issues, those staff members have been supported and they're back in work, and we are supporting them to maintain their attendance at work as best we can. So nothing specific, nothing ongoing. In terms of the central accountancy, no, we didn't. The team is under-resourced, and we put in a new post in there now, which is a mid-level post. It will have a positive impact. So Ping and the chief accountant will be working through how that role will sit in the team, and how the workload will then look like, so that we can get some resilience in there as best we can. One is probably not enough, not well likely, but it's a good start, and it will have an impact, and that's really good. So we'll know more about the recruitments in a month or two when we've had a go. Financial accountants, you know, technical accountants are difficult roles to fill. Really, we can find business partners, supporting service areas. The more technical roles. I think generally we're not training enough people in local governments in this area. And they and you know,
they're a niche, aren't they?
They are a bit, and they're a niche within local government, which is as a sector really. But we will know more in a month or two.
Okay, Councillor Screen.
Yeah, thank you. I know I do understand the pressures, the financial pressures on all councils in this present time. You know, I do appreciate that, and obviously where resources are tight, that can increase stress among staff. You know, but you know, you recognise that, you know about it, and yeah. Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Screen. Any other questions from the committee? Councillor Bright?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Once noted that we had a pre-meeting, and you know, in the pre-meeting, as a committee, we agreed this is a good report and should be welcomed, and it's a good news story. So I should put the record from the committee. Just looking at revenues, and so page 75 of the report, or page 14, sorry, page 75, when it talks about engagement in council tax. And you've got this figure as target's not met. Target was 3,500. 2,480 people actually achieved it. So my question is, where did that target of 3,500 come from? Is that percentage of the of the residents in Newport? Or are we just being too tough for not meeting that target? Because it's a whole new service.
It doesn't sound too tough to me. Don, how many types of camps do you get?
We have 72,000 cases.
So actually, this is about getting as many of them signed up for e-billing, kind of, you know, etc. So 3,500 is not a stretch, is it?
No, really,
yeah. So and it came from, unless Don knows any differently on that one, I mean, Emma's conversation with myself has been about that was our initial target, and we would look to then increase it. Unfortunately, we've never got off the first step. We haven't even reached that first target yet. So a lot of people are happy to communicate with us electronically through sending us customer forms, and we've done a really big improvement in that over the last couple of months, and that's really helped lots of aspects of revenues in particular. But we cannot get people to sign up for electronic accounts, so they no longer get a bill. They'll get an electronic bill. They will get a bill, but it'll be electronic. And communications with us, people still like their paper, which is a real. It's a really big problem for us, because actually postage is a really big issue.
Everyone uses their council tax, but it's proof of address.
And maybe that's, and I do understand that, you know, because I'm also, you know,
I've done it myself.
I'm in that camp as well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a really big prize for us in doing it this way, because it's so much cheaper.
Yeah.
And just as effective, more effective, because it gets to you quicker. But we just cannot do it at the moment. So we're trying to take up on ways where we can incentivize people to do it. So, and we're not allowed to reduce people's bills by law, so we can do that. But
5% discount if you sign up for papers. That's brilliant. They'd all be on there, then, wouldn't they?
Yeah. So the target was very simply an initial step. Never even got off.
So will that carry over? Sorry, will that carry over? Or?
I think we have to have an aspiration to improve from where we are now. So I'm very loath to decrease it, because we are at nearly 2,500. So I think we just need to push it through as best we can. And actually, the plan is that we then go to the next step. You know, so I'm very loath to decrease it because of that.
Sorry.
No, sure. Thank you. I mean, I pick up a previous in speech today, Councillor Cleverly was mentioned about the elder demographic engaging with the council and how hard it's for them to engage online services. So I think we have got a larger elderly population. So again, that's against us as well, I'm sure.
So this target is not for everyone, as you said, as you pointed out. A lot of people will just not want to or be able to engage in this way. So we recognise that this is 3,500 people on a population of 78,000 accounts. So you know, we would never have a target that was anywhere near that because we know that is the case.
But I guess if you like over the long term to get to 50, 60, 70% probably wouldn't really. Well, so you know, so 5% is a small number, isn't it?
And as the demographics change as well, you know, I think that you know, people maybe my age now, you know, I'm not too far from some 60. I'm probably more savvy with IT. My colleague behind me is probably laughing now because I'm not savvy at all. But I'm probably more savvy than my parents were.
Yeah, absolutely.
When they were 60, as it were. So yeah. You know what I mean? So over time, I mean, over the long term, yeah, the other place where this will go is when people move house. That's when they'll sign up. So they'll kind of log on, register for their new address, and probably click paperless billing at that stage. So you'll probably see a natural move over a long period of time, I would guess. Yeah.
So not really, but I mean, with council tax, it's not like a credit card bill where you would have a monthly statement which you go in and check to make sure it's right. I mean, I'm a direct debit payer. You have your bill once a year, you don't go back on there, and then until the next bill, you get your email to say your bill's there. You know, I'm an e-biller as well, but I never go on there. Like you say, I went the other week because I needed a parking permit. So you go on it, you didn't even download the paper. You can have it. Like everyone could do that, but it's just people like paper.
Yeah, well, it's also like we made like in the pre-meeting, didn't we? You know, I said exactly the same as you. I'm a debit payer. The bill just comes in, and you just change the direct debit, so I don't need to do anything. So there's nothing really kind of incentivizing on your incentive point for me to kind of just log on and do that. When the paper just comes once a year, it sorts itself out.
And if we got
probably make it too easy for people in some respects.
We got 65% direct debit payers.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Most people are going to be the same, aren't they?
Yeah, it is. You know, the thing. 65% of people at least are getting one letter a year.
Yeah.
So they're going. So what?
Yeah,
I suspect.
They probably barely read it anyway. The bit where it says sign up for paperless billing. You just have a look at it, bill and make a direct debit, and off you go. But you know, the financial impact of sending something to the post, actually is really. You know, I don't know what the budget is now for postages and revenues, but it's 6 figures. You know, it's you know, maybe as a spend to save, there is actually a sensible argument for kind of put a financial incentive on it. I know you can't reduce the bill, but you might be able to financially incentivize it elsewhere.
I think that's what we're talking about.
Enter and draw or whatever. Something like that. You know?
So Emma and I've been talking about a quarterly draw. Those people who are in the group who've been set up for it. We can reach them. Yeah, we've reached those kind of ideas now. But you know, that it is what it is. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions from the committee? No, I've got a couple, if that's okay. Just around the performance measures as well. Some of the areas are positive. There's lots of reds and ambers on there, and sort of performance going the wrong way. Benefit with payments increased significantly. Obviously, we know the internal audit challenges that you sort of had, and I wrote tonight to the audit committee last year and sort of outlined how this committee's concerns about the resource challenges you have. I know that you've sort of resolved some of that with new arrangements with SWAP. But you know, you've got the sort of accountancy stuff as well, and we had an issue where managers were submitting their monthly forecasts into you, and that had improved last year, but has dropped significantly again. Then, so we were 67, then we went 74, but we're actually down 56%. And given you said X, but given the sort of challenges we've got around budgeting and some departments, massively being over budget because of the pressures, and then we're not getting managers to kind of put this in, it must be making your life increasingly difficult as in the accountancy team, really, and adding to that sort of stress and resource issue that you've got.
I think you have hit it on the kind of head there, really. So that 56.6 is an average. There will be areas that are worse than that.
Yeah.
And there will be areas that are better than that. We have an operating model in the council, in accountancy, whereby, rightly so, I'm sure, financial management is for the budget manager and for the service area. Our financial regulations puts the owners on heads of service within the structures to manage their finances. Clearly, because they're the ones that commit the money, plan the money, and spending it, as it were. But there is, and actually, when we moved to that model with systems and processes to support it, including training, we did reduce the structure. It was a savings.
I thought it was
a number of years ago now. Sort of COVID, I think, at some point. It isn't a model that's really been bedded in robustly. There is still a reliance, too much reliance on accountancy, and it's probably true to say that our main area of sickness last year, that the team that suffered that with the stress and stuff, is probably the area where we see the lowest numbers.
Yeah.
And the biggest reliance, I suppose, relative to sort of other areas. But yeah, it's there is a connection there. Yeah, the 56.6 is a really disappointing figure, and
I mean, it might be one more for you to answer, Reece, really, because it'd be probably unfair for Myra to speak for perhaps some of his peers and colleagues, but it's certainly a concerning statistic that some of those service areas are obviously not doing this at all by the sort of looks of the stat, or very, very rarely.
Yeah, Myra and I have had many conversations about this. So, we've implemented these sort of corporate service models across the organisation more than once. So if you look at the sort of business partnering role we have in HR, that's bedded in significantly better than it has with finance. So it's something that Myra and I, we've got a session on Monday with the rest of the executive team around issues within services and the support we can provide, and I think this will be one of the key areas of conversation with that. How do we do better at managing the resources and the expectations across the organisation? Because obviously it is critically important that on a monthly and quarterly basis, budget holders have got a good grasp of the budgets they're operating within. So it clearly is obviously an important area for us to make improvements in.
Yeah, I'd certainly sort of make a note on that in terms of the sort of committee recommendation. When we get to sort of outturn and we've got a 10 million underspend, is that because department managers haven't been forecasting? I don't know. It's hypothetically posing, but
Yeah, I think. Sorry, Chair. I think if you look at a unique set of, I'd say unique. We tend to have a similar-ish situation at the end of the year, where Welsh Government provide a range of grants late in the financial year, which are really difficult to financially manage then. So that does change the budget landscape quite significantly, I think, in the last couple of months, and that's outside of all of our control then.
Yeah, I take your point, but there's probably another 5 million of that which is sort of internal rather than Welsh Government, isn't there, from the outturn report? We had the additional 5 million, didn't we? But the rest was underspending number of service areas, projects failing, and then overspending in other areas.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Obviously the underspend is a fact. It is the outturn at the 31st of March.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, whereas a forecast is something you do in year.
Yeah.
So you're not comparing the same figures there really. And so my question at year end is kind of always, well, what did we forecast year end? I suppose, and you know,
Yeah.
compared to the outset, because you know we need to be able to rely on kind of forecasts.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because decisions could be needed.
Yeah.
You know, based on those. And yeah, and you know, there's absolutely no doubt about it that the difference between the forecast and the outset, which is significant.
Yeah.
A chunk of that, a good chunk of that, is because of things that happen in often the last 6 to 7 weeks of the financial year from Welsh government. You know, we reap the benefits of that. That's great, and it just wasn't possible to forecast because the final forecast for the financial years happened. So you know it's I mean in some ways that obviously then you know people can sometimes get a bit relaxed and it doesn't matter anyway because something happens.
I know, but that's,
and that's a real shame.
Yeah,
because
that's what you want to avoid, isn't it?
Yeah,
you want the proper.
I think so. I think so. You know, I think we just need to accept the fact that you know because we do benefit from it. The government doesn't want to hand back money to Treasury in London, and therefore any expense that they identify towards the end of the year, they will distribute it to the to the public sector across Wales. So we'll take that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, totally agree.
But our forecast should still be robust. Yeah, excluding that.
Yeah, in terms of the sort of housing benefit overpayment stuff, that they are sort of going in the wrong direction the last 2 years. Is there a sort of narrative around that? Is that a resource issue? Is that a complexity issue? Because you'd expect them to go down really, given that the number of payments will go down.
Increase in housing benefit overpayment is probably driven by DWP activity. They sort of guide us to migration cases, this sort of high risk review activity. So we've been targeting cases that haven't been reviewed for a period.
Right. Okay.
And the cases we've identified, customers have sort of had capital held in bank accounts that can't be declared. So we've had to go back, create overpayments because they're knocking them off benefit from a couple of years ago. So they're quite substantial overpayments that have occurred as a result of that activity.
Okay, so that might be sort of large, small numbers, if that makes sense, rather than lots of
large overpayments.
That's what I meant. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Is there not the standard 12-month review now on HB then?
No, that finished years ago.
Yeah,
the DWP abolished benefit periods a while ago.
Right. Okay.
And they sort of brought in various review activity across the years that sort of fizzled out.
Yeah.
The latest activity is sort of high risk housing benefit award accuracy initiative. They give us a file once a month where benefit caseloads set to us to target cases we feel need to be looked at, and it's those cases we're identifying and creating overpayments.
Given that a lot of housing benefit claimants will be of pensionable age, they're the ones more likely to have the capital.
And this year in particular, that's the focus on the DWP is to target the pension age caseload.
Yeah.
And obviously, the more staff you've got, the more reviews that they do.
Yeah.
Now that can often identify more overpayments, but it does identify that somebody owes the public purse.
Absolutely.
You know, some money. And obviously, when we're assessing claims in the first place, that's when we need to get it right, of course. You know.
Any other questions from the committee on any of that? I just wanted to make one more comment, really. The answering the phone's going in the right direction, so that's really good. I know we're picking up the customer service stuff next time, but you know, it's obviously we'd like it to be better, as we all would, and I'm sure you would, but you know, it's only 2 seconds outside of the target. So that's really good, given you know we've been at 8 minutes and previously. So it's
and we've transferred the council tax phone line to the council tax team now.
Yeah.
So we transferred 3 posts from customer services or all the funds into revenues who now do their own.
Yeah, that's a good impact. I know we're getting the ending, so
certainly Emma's been very positive about it in terms of
you
know
call times down. I think it's around 18 minutes before. I think on average at the moment we're down to about 15. It's not massive, but it's just
Right
very
direction.
new. We took over from annual billing time this year, like February, March. So we got hit straight away because the number of calls you get.
Yeah.
Beginning of the year is usually busier because we send more notices out, reminding people what to pay. So hopefully it'll tail off and get better now.
Because you've got the people who actually do it, and therefore they inevitably will have a greater breadth of knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense, particularly in that sort of specialist area.
And the number of calls we had for council tax was significant, so it was worth them having their own sort of dedicated. It still comes through the council's core number, but it's now off into that team there. So it's a work in progress, that one, but hopefully it's going to be better.
Fantastic. Any other questions from the committee, or should we dip on the recommendations?
Only a comment, about the COVID time improvement council tax. Other than that comment that you made about the issue by managers not submitting the forecasts. I would like to make that as a recommendation if they'd like to wish. So
that will be reported in the half yearly one for this year, won't it? So the committee can. But I would suggest that it's a regularly reported figure.
Yeah, I mean, my take is that the committee ought to recommend, please jump in others, but the committee ought to recommend that the senior executives, the directors and chief exec, have a look at the performance of each department, and which we sort of said you were going to do because you were meeting and following that up. So that's where I think the recommendation sits. Is that okay, Reece?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Everybody else happy with that? Fantastic. Any other recommendations? Anything we've missed? Anybody? No. Grateful for your time then. Thank you, everybody. Nice to meet some new faces as well. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
We'll sort of finish off with, I think you've got some new votes report. So we'll just let everyone go, and then we'll quickly finish off with the recommendations and reports. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.
We haven't finished yet, Matt.
All right. Sorry. I'm staying.
No worries. So we just need to box off Neil's scrutiny advisors report. So, if that's okay.
Thanks very much, Chair. So, just to advise them, actions and outcomes and tables are all in there at the moment. We're just waiting for responses from the last end of year reviews. I chased up again this week for the first round that we did 2 weeks ago. Just included the comments that we had previously about the placemaking plan. The next 2 meetings are both in September. We'll have on the 1st of September the replacement local development plan.
Is that still coming? Because we were at the time when it was ready. That's coming, isn't it?
It is now coming, yeah. Yes. Tracy spoke about that one. And then on the 29th of September, we've got the customer contact improvement project update and also the communication performance update, which we were talking about earlier on, Tracy.
Yeah, so the communications performance. So I've been trying to set some terms of reference for that, because that's an area which last year's committee was Gavin and Jan were there, I think, and Alan. It was an area that came up a few times in terms of comms. Matthew, you raised sort of comms earlier on as well, and I think there have been a number of improvements in comms, but I think it's a performance area we ought to sort of scrutinise. One of the comments that came up today was the lack of resource in that team, which Councillor Emma Corton sort of pointed out. So I think it's useful for us to understand the performance in light of the resource and what that looks like, and how, in my view, the council needs to kind of change the narrative that's really negative out there, you know, that we see all the time on social media and everything else. So what is the comms team doing to kind of make sure that we're getting all the positive reflections that we should amongst people? And like somebody mentioned earlier about sort of challenging that negative sort of narrative online as well. So hopefully we can sort of have a look at all that as part of the comms review.
I agree, Chair. I think far too often the council has had a defensive approach and has kind of turned a blind eye or ignored or avoided challenging members of the public that spread misinformation and are bluntly biased in towards the criticism towards NCC. And I still think there's an awful lot of stuff that's done at grassroots that the council could be a little bit more representative of and helpful and supportive. They've still got this cold shoulder that they offer so many community groups, and it's that standoff approach. I think if they tried a little bit harder to work within the community, I think that they would see that narrative would change, because people will be in more direct contact with NCC, as opposed to the us and them culture, which I think has developed over the past decade.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll get some value out of that one anyway. So.
The other issue I did raise, and it was a negative issue, but I just want it noted, is the time of the asset transfer with the transformation. The TOC-H case study has taken absolutely ages, and we've nearly lost out on our funding, which is absolutely vital to the transformation refurbishment of the community centre, because of the delays in the council transferring the asset over. I know they said it's a pilot. I know that that they're kind of learning as they go along, but a lot needs to be learned, and I think there needs to be a meeting directly focusing on asset transfer at some point in the future, because we're probably going to be doing it more often, given that our finances are still not where we want them to be, and they need to improve. It's really slow and cumbersome, and it's incredibly soul destroying for if you're involved in any of the committees, just waiting for something to happen. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but
Matt, we did make a recommendation that they review the resource going into it, and that's a starting point, really. I think because what they admitted is people are just doing it on top of their day job. So if they want to do more of these, they have to put the proper resource into doing it, and we did make that recommendation. So yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, if I'm honest with you, the volume is not that great my end. I didn't quite catch everything that Tracy was saying. I think it might have been the distance from the microphone.
Yeah, no worries. But your point was made, and we made a recommendation out of it. So
brilliant. Thank you, Chair.
No worries. Sorry, that's it. Okay, thanks everybody. See you after the summer holidays and on the 1st of September.